Blood-red sails pierce the mist. Silent, relentless, unstoppable. And the monks of Lindisfarne have no idea that their world is about to be torn apart. This is the dawn of the Viking Age, an era of terror and conquest. But the raids were just the beginning. Soon a force greater than ever before would descend upon England, the great heathen army. Rain turns the earth into thick, sucking mud. Torches flicker in the cold wind, casting eerie shadows over ranks of warriors, shields locked, axes gleaming. A deep war chant rises, rolling like thunder across the English countryside. This is no raid. This is an army. For years, the Vikings struck like ghosts, swift, merciless, vanishing before retaliation. But now they are here to conquer, to avenge. Ivar the Boneless, cold and calculating, watches the battlefield. His brothers, Halfdan and Ubba, grip their swords. Their father, Ragnar Lothbrok, was thrown into a pit of serpents by King Ella of Northumbria. Now, they come for vengeance. The English know what awaits them. They have heard the stories of warriors who fight like demons, who fear neither steel nor death. The shield wall tightens, axes gleam, the silence shatters. Battle begins. England will never be the same. Longships glide through the mist, dragon-headed prows cutting the waves. The shores of East Anglia lie ahead, calm, unsuspecting. King Edmund, seeing doom, offers horses. The Northmen accept, but their true prize lies further north. Winter howls as the great heathen army marches to Northumbria. Villages watch in silent terror. Thousands of warriors advance, an unstoppable tide. Their target, York. Northumbria is divided. King Ella holds the throne, but his enemies lurk within and beyond the walls. The Norse strike on All Saints' Day, 866 CE. The city's defenses crumble. The battle is swift, brutal. Streets run red. By nightfall, York belongs to the Vikings, but they do not leave. They fortify. They make York, Jorvik, their own. The frozen mud cracks under iron-shod boots. A thick fog coils over the battlefield, swallowing the dying screams of men trampled beneath charging war horses. Repton, once a proud royal stronghold of Mercia, is now a graveyard. The stench of blood, sweat, and burning thatch thickens the air as Viking warriors storm the gates. A Mercian soldier, young, trembling, lifts his shield just as an axe splits through the wood, biting into his arm. He screams, but his voice is lost beneath the war cries of the great heathen army. In the chaos, a towering Dane, his beard matted with frost and gore, drives his sword deep into a Mercian knight's belly. The Englishman gasps, blood bubbling at his lips. The Viking does not linger. He wrenches the blade free and turns, seeking his next kill. For years, Mercia has stood on borrowed time. Since the fall of Nottingham in 868, King Burgred has fought like a cornered wolf, calling on Wessex for aid. But silver and desperate alliances cannot halt the tide of Norse conquest. The Vikings do not simply raid now, they rule. They winter in Mercia, feast in its halls, and sharpen their axes for the next slaughter. Repton is their final blow. The Mercian shield wall buckles under the weight of relentless assault. Limbs sever, skulls split, and the River Trent runs red with the fallen. King Burgred is nowhere to be found, fled to Rome, abandoning his kingdom to the storm. And so, the war ends not with a final, glorious stand, but with silence. The last defenders are cut down, their bodies left to rot beneath a foreign sky. In the Viking camp, warriors drink from silver goblets looted from Mercian churches, laughing as they carve up the land like spoils of a hunt. The dawn of a new rule. Mercia does not rise again. By 874, the kingdom is shattered, its throne now a puppet of Norse rule. Repton becomes more than a battlefield. It becomes a burial ground, where Viking chieftains sleep beneath mounds of earth, watching over the land they conquered. But England is far from broken. Wessex still stands, and a young prince named Alfred watches the coming storm, knowing that one day he must fight. The war is far from over. The battlefield is a storm of chaos. Mud churns beneath trampling feet, the air thick with the scent of sweat, steel, and blood. English and Viking warriors clash in a maelstrom of violence. Shields shatter, swords carve through flesh, and dying men collapse into the dirt. At the center of the storm, King Ethelred of Wessex fights with desperate fury, his blade slick with blood. The great heathen army, relentless and unyielding, presses forward. For years, the Norsemen have broken every kingdom in their path. Now, Wessex stands alone. Ethelred falls ill, leaving his younger brother, Alfred, to bear the weight of war. He is no seasoned warrior, only a scholar, a thinker. But Wessex has no other hope. At the Battle of Wilton, the Vikings crush the last resistance, forcing Alfred into uneasy negotiations. A fragile peace is brokered. The Northmen withdraw, for now. But peace with Vikings is an illusion. In 876 CE, they return, sweeping across Wessex like a plague. Towns burn. Villages vanish. Alfred, outnumbered and pursued, is forced into hiding, retreating deep into the marshes of Athelney. His kingdom is gone, his people broken. His enemies believe him finished, but Alfred endures. He watches, he waits, and when the moment is right, he strikes. In 878 CE, he gathers the scattered warriors of Wessex, his call to arms a spark in the darkness. At Edington, the tide turns. Viking shields splinter beneath the English advance, their ranks shattered. The Norse warlord Guthrum kneels in defeat. The Treaty of Wedmore is signed. The Danelaw is born. England is divided, but Alfred, against all odds, has saved his kingdom from the brink of extinction. Smoke coils into the morning sky as Viking war banners ripple over Jorvik. The city, once a prize taken by sword and shield, now beats with the pulse of trade and industry. Merchants haggle in Old Norse and Old English, their voices blending in the crowded streets. Blacksmiths hammer iron. The scent of roasting meat drifts from market stalls, and ships heavy with silver furs and spices dock along the River Ouse. Once a battlefield, now a kingdom. The Northmen did not just conquer, they became part of England itself. The great heathen army came for vengeance, for conquest. They left behind something far greater, a new world shaped by blood and ambition. Viking law, language, and customs wove into the fabric of English society. Jorvik, their capital in the north, became a hub of trade and power, where Norse jarls ruled and English farmers tilled the land beneath their banners. But war never truly ended. Alfred the Great's successors, his son Edward and grandson Ethelstan, fought to reclaim what had been lost. The Danelaw shrank, battle by battle. Viking warlords clashed with Saxon kings, their swords carving the borders of a divided England. Then, the unthinkable. The Northmen did not just invade, they ruled. In 1016 CE, Nut the Great, a Viking king, sat upon the English throne, uniting Saxons and Danes under his rule. What began as an army of raiders had shaped the destiny of a nation. The great heathen army had long since vanished, but its legacy endured. In language, in law, in blood. The war that tore England apart became the force that would one day unite it. The battlefield is silent now. Where shields once clashed, only the wind moves through empty fields. The warriors are gone, but the legacy of their war remains. The great heathen army came with fire and steel, leaving a permanent mark on England. Before the invasion, the Norsemen were raiders, but the great heathen army changed everything. They became rulers, settlers, and kings. Their conquest shattered Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, forcing new alliances and enemies. To survive, the English had to unite. By the 10th century, the Danelaw shrank as Saxon kings reclaimed their lands. Yet the Vikings left behind more than destruction. Their language, customs, and blood became part of England's identity. Jorvik, once the heart of Viking England, thrived as a center of trade and power. The great heathen army was more than an invasion. It was a turning point. It reshaped a nation, forged future kings, and proved that history is written not just in ink, but in iron and blood. England was no longer just Saxon. It was something new, something forged in war. And though the Northmen faded, their spirit never truly left.